All right, looks like we are live. Welcome, everyone, to Smooze Stream 5. I'm Forward Progress, and joined with me today...
I'm Nova Rose.
And we represent Keeping Friendship Magic, and today we're going to be bringing to you the first panel of this day of entertainment for everybody, and that is our Ducktales panel.
It's hard to believe that we've done 5 of these.
Smooth Streams, that is. This is our first Ducktales panel.
Fair point.
Yes, but Ducktales, woohoo. We are presenting to you today The Greatest Adventure. So, if you've followed me or us and our content, and especially our social media, one thing you'll know about us is we are giant fans of DuckTales. And in particular, the 2017 Ducktales Reboot. And I think I can go on record as saying one of the best shows that we've gotten, period, in the 2000s.
We even have Ducksonas now.
Yes. So, we just watched the series finale, I want to say about a month ago now. And we had this idea that just kind of kicked around after seeing the series finale that we just was like, we need to talk about this stuff. It was festering in my mind, I know, for a little while. We need to talk about DuckTales. We need to talk about the themes here. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about what The Greatest Adventure truly is. Now, all this being said here, I need to put out this big spoiler alert for y'all. Because flat out, we're going to talk about a lot of spoilerific things from the series. We're going to talk about a lot of big moments in the series. And in particular, the final segment of this panel is going to talk about the series finale. The series finale is what inspired this panel here. So, granted, the entire series did, but in particular, some of the stuff that is talked about in the finale. So if you want to avoid spoilers, I understand. You can come back. We're recording this panel. If you're watching this later, somehow, hi future people. But we are going to talk about some spoilerific stuff. But what we're really going to talk about today is a very core concept to this series, I would say. Wouldn't you agree, honey?
Mm-hmm.
And that is the concept of family and how family is explored throughout this series. And we're going to start first and foremost with how we view family here, because everybody's kind of got a different perspective, a different viewpoint on family and what family means to them. And let me ask you, honey, what would you say family means to you?
Family, I think, is just what you make it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for me, I'm not close to like 95% of my family, so like my family are the people that I've met and have stuck with me, even, you know, through my good and bad times.
We're gonna talk about a lot of the concepts relating to exactly what you just said. And here's the bottom line. Having the perspective of what family means to you is super important, and we learned that right from the get-go in this series, right from episode 1. We learn about the perspective that a lot of these individual characters have about their family. And we open the series meeting our triplets, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, who we see here on screen. And we also meet Donald. Granted, re-meet. If you hadn't met Donald Duck before then, I think you've been asleep for a while.
Or they're young. And are only just being introduced to Donald.
That's true. That's true. If this was your introduction to Donald Duck, what a great introduction to that character.
Mm-hmm.
But we meet them, these 3 boys living on a boat with their Uncle Donald, seeking a more grand adventure in life, thinking that their family isn't much of anything. But it's interesting how their perspective compares to another character we get to meet in the series premiere.
Researching Mr. McDuck and his family is kind of my hobby.
What?
What are your blood types? What's Donald really like? Who's the evil triplet?
Louie.
Tell me everything!
We live with our uncle on a boat.
Go on.
Kinda it. We're just a normal, boring family.
Normal? Boring? Ha!
Whoa.
Huey, Dewey, and Louie Duck. Scrooge McDuck's great-nephews on his sister Hortense's side with Quackmore Duck twice removed.
And you are?
Oh, right. Webby Vanderquack. My granny's the housekeeper. Wait! Are we friends now?
If we say yes, will you let us live?
Good one, new best friend.
So, lot to unpack from that just small moment there. We have Huey, Dewey, and Louie, who have been living with Donald Duck this whole time and have this perspective because of, you know, what the life experience has shown them, that this is what life is. It's boring. We just live on this boat with our uncle. We don't get to do very much. We don't know very many people. Their perspective of the world was framed such that it wouldn't be much of anything. And we learn later in the series that a lot of this has to do with the fact that their mom was lost in what we feel was very much tragic means, that we felt that she was gone, never to return. And the tragedy of losing the mom split this family apart and put him in a situation where Donald felt that he had to take care of his sister's children and protect them at what all cost. And sometimes when we're trying to protect things at all cost, we kind of smother them, wouldn't you say?
Mm-hmm.
And we will have a tendency to make it where life seems that much boring because we're trying to keep everything in this little bubble, in this little box, and that's what they're living. Now, the other interesting converse here is Webby. Webby, incidentally, is kind of living a similar life where she's living pent up, held within this mansion, not like held as in forced against her will or anything, but with an overprotective parent or grandparent in this case. You know, her granny is taking care of her, keeping her safe in there, and she's not really ventured outside the mansion much. She's not really interacted with people that much, but she's gotten to see the perspective of what an adventuring family can be, and looking from the outside in on what these triplets, who they are, who they're connected to, has a different perspective on how this all goes.
It is interesting how just like one person in the family can just have this crazy rippling effect over the entire family. Because it's like now, because of that situation, like it's made both parties just super overprotective of these kids.
Mm-hmm. And it's the ironic thing of this, we learned very quickly in the series, this is a family known for adventure, of just high stakes, going out and doing dangerous things. But when we open, everybody is doing nothing, essentially, here. When we first meet Scrooge McDuck, we are introduced to a miserly curmudgeon, a man who is almost kind of given up, you could say. That we see him in a board meeting letting funding be taken away from adventuring programs. We see him alone. When we see him interact with Donald for the first time, he really is very standoffish, doesn't really seem to know how to do the interaction, isn't picking up on the cues, is barely listening to Launchpad when he talks to him. All of these things here where he has kind of shut himself off from his family. And then family is forced upon him when Donald drops the triplets off at his door to go have a job interview. And he starts hearing ripples of things going on and wonders what he can do to be his adventuring old self. But he still is having this perspective of family that is causing a ripple effect with his own personality. And we get to see that here in this scene.
So, not interested?
I have enough excitement caring for Webby. Perhaps you should spend some time with your family.
Oh, aye. Hang up my spats.
become the doddering old relic everyone thinks I am, spinning yarns to those loudmouth young'uns about the man I used to be.
You have avoided them for 10 years.
Because family is nothing but trouble! I'm Scrooge McDuck. I made my name being tougher than the toughies and smarter than the smarties. And I made my money square. On my own. No nephews, no family. No one helped me then, and I don't need help now. And... Weekly, a little help.
This is how we meet Scrooge. This image right here is exactly how we meet Scrooge McDuck. This is the first scene I believe he's actually in, other than kind of a reference of images while the triplets talk about him, is a man alone with his money, shut off from his family, because he's viewing family as nothing but trouble. And he doesn't want any more trouble. So, how have you ever dealt with that in times of your life where you've had those experiences where you have family that may not be, you know, like that kind of fear of what family could mean? You know, is that something that has impacted our lives? And it's something to think about, I think, for all of us here, about where do we stand with our family? And we're going to get into what we mean truly by family later in this panel. But I think you brought up a good point about family being what you make it. But at what point in your life do you think you came to that realization?
I think I came to that realization when I realized that every single time I interact with my blood family, it's the most unpleasant experience. And it's like, but then I just kind of self-reflected in all the people that I've met during my biggest growth periods, aka my early 20s, and it's like, wow, I am closer to these people than my actual, blood relatives. So it's like, if I love these people more than my actual blood family, then to me they're just family.
Family is such a big term, and it can mean so many different things. There is blood family, and that's what is going on here, but it's more than that. It's more than just, okay, I happen to be related to them by blood. It's about making that connection. And Scrooge is afraid to make the connection at the beginning of the series. And it takes an adventure to happen literally, not even on his doorstep, in his garage, flying over to his money bin to get him to go, whoa, something is different here. Something needs to change in me. And we see that by the end of the first episode.
In the short time I've known you, you've wrecked my home and my money bin, unleashed several ancient evils, and almost got me killed twice.
4 times if you count each monster as an individual time.
That was incredible! When you pulled me into the airplane and said no time. Oh, and who would have thought of a Medusa gauntlet? Brilliant! Oh, and then you swung me out and pulled up just in time and you kids are nothing but trouble! Curse me kilts, have I missed trouble? I suppose I'll have to keep an eye on you to teach you how to get into trouble properly.
You mean?
Beakley, clear my schedule! I'm taking the wee ones on a field trip.
About time. And once again, I am not your secret.
The one big thing I want to point out from that, we just watched 2 clips of Scrooge saying the phrase that you're nothing but trouble, or they're nothing but trouble. Do you notice the difference between those 2 times he stated that? That first one of family is nothing but trouble, or you all are nothing but trouble, and I missed trouble. we're always going to have challenges. And I think that's the big takeaway from this, is sometimes we're going to have challenges that are going to face us, and we're going to have to go through hardships with the people we're closest to. But if we shut everybody away, if we shut off the potential to connect to family, we shut ourselves off from so much more. We shut ourselves off from the world. And it takes this adventure, it takes the triplets winding up on his doorstep at the gate to get Scrooge to see a different perspective, to open back up to family. And it takes this to get the triplets to realize our family isn't as boring as we thought. Our lives don't have to be as boring and mundane as we thought. All a change of perspective. So, we've definitely talked about how family can be kind of what you make it. And there's a type of family we've started alluding to here. And really, let's face it, family involves friendship. And we learn this very early on in the series here. And we've already talked a little bit about Webby, but we really get to learn about friendship as family through the character of Webby. Honestly, one of my favorite characters, one of the strongest characters in the series. Beautifully acted. You gotta say, Webby, a girl who wants family, wants adventure. For all she knows, she is an only child with no parents and just a granny who took her in. But by being close to a family unit, becomes part of it and learns how to develop her own family. We saw that family board in that first clip we saw. And it all really develops when we meet this character Lena. When Webby meets her through... I had actually forgot. I went back and we watched a whole lot of DuckTales for this panel. And you rewatched it with me.
Well, it was like we were getting clips and just couldn't stop just watching the episodes.
It's so good. But I forgot how these two met. Lena was throwing out joke messages in a bottle that Webby was so happy to find because she wanted that companionship. Something I think we all want. And that gets just brought even more to the focus in this next scene.
Ha! Wait until the guys hear my new nickname!
You mean those three nerds who ditched you on a beach? Yeah, they sound real fun.
Oh, no. There were only 3 spots on the boat, so I let them go. We're cool like that. It's a family thing.
Family, huh? Not really my thing.
But family is the best! You go on adventures together, make inside jokes! Like, there was this hilarious joke where they went out boating and Louie got them lost! And since then, they call him Captain Lost! Yeah, I don't get it either. Sometimes it's like they have their own secret language. It's just, I don't know. They have so much history together.
Well, now we have history.
Oh.
So, Webby has been kind of a part of this family. This, I believe, is episode like 4 or 5 of the series. It's very early on. Webby's been kind of a part of this, of the Mcduck family, so to speak, kind of a surrogate member, but only getting so close. There is a bond she wants that the triplets have. At the beginning of that episode, they go boating and say there's not room on the boat for Webby. And it's kind of one of those, like, she's seeking that bond. And what better way to seek that bond through friendship? And friendship with Lena here. And we learn a lot about Lena throughout the series, obviously. Lena being kind of a counterpoint to Magica Dispels, you know, kind of her shadow that gets to come into the real world. And there's a lot to go with that, but suffice to say, these two make a connection, make a true friendship that goes beyond just an acquaintance or Joe Schmo. They talk about sharing experiences there. and having that. And it just reminds me of the people that we've shared experiences with and the people we're close to and how I would call them family.
Now, I know one thing I want to go jump on with from that clip is when Webby said about how, like, the triplets have, like, a language all to themselves. And it's interesting because it's like, I have an older brother, so I totally relate to that, where, like, I talk to him very differently than I talk to basically anyone else. But then on the flip side, I have the same thing with you. And, I mean, you aren't blood related or anything, but it was just like we click on that fundamental level where you just kind of develop that sort of love language.
Mm-hmm. Now, that is all not to say that you won't find challenges within friendship. We know this. And obviously here, let's face it, if you know us, you know our work in the Brony fandom. And the fact that that after watching 9 seasons of Friendship is Magic, having DuckTales have an episode called Friendship Hates Magic was quite something to behold, was it not? And at this point in the series, we're in season 2. And at this point, Lena is in the Shadow Realm due to, you know, the defeat of Magica Dispel. But Webby's not giving up on her. But she starts making a new friend. A potential new friend. Somebody who has shown an interest in caring to her. But that's one of those things about friendship becoming a unit, a family, is that willingness and that ability to accept someone new into that fold. And that can be a challenge at times. And we got to see that in this episode.
Webby, it's a trap! Hi? Lena! I hate to break up this heartwarming reunion, but these tulpas are edging closer. Where are my manners? Lena, this is... Oh, I know who she is. A spy, a thief, a second-rate knockoff of me! Get away from Webby. She's mine!
The fact of Lena going out and saying, she's mine. This is the big thing when it comes to friendship and making friends family. You don't own your friends. You don't own your family. You are connected. A true family unit is one that has a balance. A symbiosis, let's say, to get all fancy technical. But for real, there's so many things that are studied out there in social science about connectivity between people, and so many theories, and a lot of them boil down to like kind of like cost benefit type of thing, and a lot of people can get into unhealthy relationships. But having a pure family unit that feels like that gives you that kind of warm fuzzy inner family feeling is one where you know that they care for you and will do things for you, and you will do it right back for them, and you don't worry about it. I always feel like that's what I have with you. I know, I'm getting sappy on stream, everybody. Get used to it, it's what I do. But there's a level of caring, there's a level of empathy that you have, that you develop. And even when they falter, you still want to find a way to make it work. But with friends, you always... And the thing about the friends part of the family is, you know, there is always the ability to make new friends. Blood family is going to get made through, well, let's face it, procreation. But even beyond that, when you get in-laws... Sometimes, you know, your brother marries somebody, your sister marries somebody, your aunt marries somebody. They come into your family. And then it's how do you find a way to broach that? Or how do you feel about that person that you're close to? Are you willing to accept that you are not the only person in that other individual's world? And that's tough at times. And that's for Lena here. Because let's face it, Lena was the shadow of a dark creature, of magical dispel, of evil. And she had to cast off this shadow of evil, realizing she's made a true friend and made a big connection, and had to learn how to let go of that fear. And we see that, again, right after the clip we just saw. Right after that scene, we have more.
It's your fault. If you hadn't meddled with magic, Webby would still be safe. The tulpas are manifestations of great desire, like your desire for magical power, or your desire not to be forgotten by Webigail. Newton's apple, you are dense. You'll note the tulpas have taken your form. They are manifestations of your own jealousy trying to keep Webigail with you in the Shadow Realm. Ugh, maybe. Look, we have nothing in common, but we do both seem to care about... Help! Webigail! If she goes out that door, we may lose her forever.
Not on my watch. Come on, nerd. Let's make magic. With the hand of my friend's friend, we bring bitter jealousy to an end. With the hand of my friend's friend, we bring bitter jealousy to an end. With the hand of my friend's friend, we bring bitter jealousy to an end. With the hand of my friend's friend, we bring bitter jealousy to an end.
It's amazing when you open yourself up to different types of people, what can happen. The one thing that sticks with me so much from that scene was how Violet looks over at Lena and says, you know, we obviously have nothing in common, but we do both care for Webby. It reminds me a lot, and of course I'm going to dial it back, but we talked about this earlier, is there is the Mod Pie episode of My Little Pony, for those of you who know, where you had this new character who seemed to not get along with anybody from the friend group. But there was one thing in common, and that was that everybody cared about Pinkie Pie in that instance. And here was another instance just like that, where Violet and Lena had the connection of, we both care about Webby. We both have this commonality, this feature, and we can build a relationship off of this. And they start to, in that episode. They start to learn more about each other, to the point of, look at this trio. Look at this here. I mean, you have the best friend necklaces, a connection that becomes magic, where it's funny how they called that that episode we just saw the clips from, Friendship Hates Magic. But friendship ends up being their magic. It's a little more complicated than that, obviously, with Lena and Shadow Magic. But between the three of them, they truly have friendship magic. They find a way to have harmony. And their friendship is a family. They're more than friends. They're more like sisters. And it's, you know, it's something to behold. And, you know, I feel like we have that with some of the friends that we've made over time. Maybe you're watching out there right now. We love you. I know there are people that I've met through everything we've done that I just couldn't imagine life without them, and I care about them so much, and I would call them family, and I would gladly go on an adventure with them. So we've got, since we are talking about family in this panel, if you are a Ducktales fan like us, you probably expected us to kind of talk about, say, this situation right here.
Best duck right here.
The tale of Della Duck and coming home to her family. I'll be honest, we talked about so much Della Duck in prep for this panel that I believe we're going to make a Della Duck specific panel in the future. So we really cut back on what we're going to talk about with it. But we got to talk about adaptation. We talked about this in the friendship segment. Family's going to require adaptation. There's going to be new people. There's going to be curveballs that get thrown your way. To maintain a family unit, it's not always easy. And even in moments where you think things are great and you got exactly what you wanted, that's still a change. Change is scary. Change is stressful. Change is, it's a constant in life. But internally, we always fear it. Because when we get accustomed to something, we know that we're safe. And your body, your brain wants to stay safe. And you can't blame it for wanting to stay safe. But just like in the beginning there, we talked in that first segment about perspective and about keeping everything sheltered and safe. But then that holds it back from the true magic and the true power of family, of friendship. Adaptation. And this family had to adapt hardcore when Della finally gets home after 10 years on the moon. She finally gets home and has to adapt to being a mom for the first time.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mcduck, but I think Della is struggling to adjust to this new life.
Come now, Beakley. She's only just arrived.
So she's not the best with cooking or age-appropriate stories or child endangerment, but nobody's perfect.
She's trying, and that's what matters. Junior Woodchuck Rule 3. No matter how hard things get, never give up on a fellow woodchuck. Sorry, I still can't hear that great. Also, she's our mom! Right, Louie?
Right? Well... Hey, look, don't get me wrong. Of course I'm happy to have Mom back. But I don't know. It's probably my fault. I've gone so long without a mom, I guess I don't really know how to have one.
That's because she's not a mom. Not yet, anyway. She's been gone for so long. You've got to give her time to figure out who she is and how she fits into this family.
Lot in that scene. You're going to get thrown different roles in life. You're going to get thrown different things. Della has to learn how to be a mom. She wasn't there for the first decade of her children's life and has to adapt all of a sudden to how to do it.
Not to mention she's been a social recluse for 10 years. That also does not help matters.
Mm-hmm. Well, for most of that 10 years.
True.
So, we have all this. You have everything here of this great, beautiful moment of a mother finally coming home to her children. But things are going to be bumpy. Family is going to take adjustment. And everyone has to learn within a family unit. Parents have to learn how to parent. Children have to learn how to adjust. Communication is huge, huge in maintaining a family. Because you're going to do things that are going to be great. And you're going to do things that, let's face it, you're going to mess up. No one is perfect. And that definitely comes with parenting too. Granted, have I ever been a parent? No. Have I been part of a family? Yes. And there were times where I wish I could have said, made my parents do different things, or I could have done things differently as a child, as a grandchild. I look back and I regret ways that I acted when I was younger, but I was also young and learning, and I know that that was part of the process. Being able to learn from your moments and your mistakes and adapt, it's huge. And I know I wanted to turn this over to you because you brought up something to me when we were exploring the Della Duck clips that I think is an interesting moment and telling of how this series is telling the modern tale of family. Do you want to go into it?
Oh, yeah. Because one thing I kind of realized is Della Duck is a millennial raising kids. And I felt like that's why, I personally, really connected with her. Because it's this is a duck that, she plays video games. She, she almost feels like a kid herself, which I think speaks to a lot of our generation, where it's just sometimes it feels like we are still kids sometimes. Like, we watch cartoons. We're talking about a cartoon. Whereas, like, previous generations, it's like you reach an age and it's like you have to essentially leave everything that is remotely childish behind. So yeah, like she kind of just feels like a millennial, and it's interesting as a millennial, like, seeing this kind of story of like, hey, like, I'm not the kid anymore. Like, I'm not the nephews. I'm Della.
Mm-hmm. And there's so much within that, because it's one of those things where I've said this before of that kind of moniker of like, we're the adults now, we get to decide how to adult.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't have to turn off these things that were always told to us that they were childlike or kiddish, but we also do have to grow and mature at the same token. So there's nothing saying we can't still play video games with our kids, or we can't be into animation or all this stuff that we were always told were kid things.
Like, it was so funny to me, because it's like, in the first episode when she's back, it's like, she, like, makes a bunch of cakes for her kids, which is like, who in our generation is just like, cake all the time.
Funny enough, last night we just randomly had a craving for key lime pie and said, screw it, and we drove out to the grocery store and got ourselves key lime pie. We're adults, we can make adult decisions for key lime pie. Because honestly, guys, there's never a bad time for key lime pie.
Never.
But but yes, but that's the thing though, of like, we have that, but we've also had to learn a lot about growing and maturing. And we are not the people we were when we were 12, 16, 18. We are different. We have interests that might fall in line with people of those age groups. But we also know more about taking care of ourselves, of having some fiscal responsibility, of knowing how to manage relationships better. And granted, we're still learning, and we're still going to screw up. But what are we going to do? We're going to adapt to these situations. And that's what you do in a family, is you adapt. And that's what Della and the rest of the family had to learn.
Thanks, Mom.
Hey, guys!
How did you get free?
Good parenting is about coping with change and adapting to unforeseen challenges. She adapted. One day in and you're learning already.
Huey, Dewey, Louie, I know you're not used to having a mom, and I am not used to being one, but I'll figure it out as we go along, in time.
We all will.
Della admits she needs to adapt and learn, and Louie right there says we all do. You know, it's funny because I actually forgot about it until we were playing the clips, about the fact that the moment where Della, actually it's in the middle of this where she's hugging the kids and going, wait a minute, Huey, Dewey, and Louie, their names were supposed to be Jet, Turbo, and Rebel.
Could have been Turbo.
But I think that that's an interesting thing, where it's almost like a realization in the adaptation here of, okay, I was going to call them that. They've been here for 10 years with these other names. They've adapted to having this life, and I need to adapt along with them. These are the names they like. These are the names they have. By the end of it, she's comfortable calling them Huey, Dewey, and Louie.
Louie still hates Llewellyn, though.
I don't know. I think Llewellyn's kind of a cool name.
Oh, yeah, no, it's cool and different, but it's just... I love whenever... what is his name? the big the Gamimama.
Oh, Doofus Drake.
Yeah, because he always calls him well, and it's just his face whenever he does that is great.
Mm-hmm. But they're all learning as they go, and that's life. Life is about learning. Life is about changing. Life is about adapting. And that's the same for family. Family is about change and adaptation. Friendship is about change, is about adaptation. All of this comes together. So, family is this great adventure. It is this great challenge that you're always going to face. You're always going to have hurdles, and you're always going to have to grow and adapt. And that's what this family does. And they're not always happy. Sometimes they're at each other's throats. We almost were going to put in clips about a few episodes down the road where Louis messes up and puts the universe in danger, and Della has to ground him very seriously and teach him a lesson and learn something about tough love and about how you have to balance your friendship and being, a kind, sweet soul. But sometimes the best way to do that is by pushing somebody.
Reminds me of the one Fluttershy episode with the Breezies.
Mm-hmm. Almost like that there's great themes happening in animation right now. So we're about to go into the final segment of our panel here, and I'm going to tell you this entire final segment relates to the series finale. So if you've held on up until now, but you don't want to find out series finale spoilers, here's where to hop off, because we're going to have big series finale spoilers in this last segment here. Because what we're going to do is use the series finale to sum up what is family. Like, family is what? And we've talked so much about it here. And you've built up this expectation. And the series have built up the expectation to this point about, like, there's this huge thing of family and what it is and what it means and this extended network of people. But then, as always happens with family, this notion, this idea gets challenged by a new variable that no one saw coming in the form of May and June.
Behold! Webby's family board! Wow, we have such a big family. It seems like this is mostly about the McDucks. They are my family. We may not be related by blood, but by love. But you aren't really related to them. What about these two? These are my best friends, which are like family that you choose. We have all kinds of secrets, and these friendship bracelets we never take off, and one time we visited a bog!
Well, the bog gets me every time.
Want to go visit a bog?
Apparently that's where friendships are made.
Well, you know it. Well, actually, I think it's just deepened.
Friendship is bogs.
My Little Pony Generation 6?
There we go.
All right. May and June come in, and Webby finds herself having to explain her family. And notice that family board has grown exponentially since that first episode, because we got new characters that came into the fold and were part of this and became part of the family. This wasn't just about the McDucks, but a large portion of it is with the McDucks, and Webby felt a connection with them. But May and June are looking at this and going, well, who are we? We are connected to Webby, but, like, that's genetic. Are we connected genetically to these people? And they're looking at it through that lens. What does our purpose mean? What does life mean? And finding it through, what's our connection? What brought us here? Why are we here? Who are we? And these are the great questions of the universe. And they are seeking answers truthfully through family. Where did we come from? Why did we come from? How did we come from? All of these questions are being put in there. And it's all about identity. finding who we are through a sense of familial connection. And that's one of those things here. And I want to say this. Have you ever noticed how when people ask you about who you are and you have to introduce yourself, what is it you find yourself saying? What is it you find yourself saying about, like, when you're introducing yourselves? It's kind of like who you are. And a lot of it I find is a couple of things about, like, what you do for a career tends to be a thing that people put out there first. Like, who are you? Oh, I'm Forward Progress. I present panels and I went to school for social science. But I'm so much more than that. And part of what that is my connections. You know, I'm a fiance. I am a friend. I am a family member. I am an individual who does things for these people and gets things from these people.
I'm a chaos elemental.
And yet I stay with you. I love you, babe. But we are so much more than I think we often give ourselves credit for. And that gets all kind of put into this great jumble in the moment where you have these two clones who don't know who they are. And they are desperate to know through any means necessary. Who are we? Why are we here? Aren't those the great questions we all ask at some point in our lives?
Pretty much.
And then it all kind of comes full circle later in the episode here. When the big revelation happens here. And major spoilers in the next two. Huge major spoilers. Turn away if you don't want spoilers.
Grant and April and June were already major spoilers.
May and June.
Yeah, that one.
Bradford needed Scrooge's descendant, so he made one.
Webby is Scrooge's daughter?
Bless me, bagpipes.
That's why we were made? So Bradford could find some dumb piece of paper and get rid of us?
We weren't even good enough to do that. We never have been.
What? Of course you're good enough.
How will you know? Heron made you too.
Heron made me, but she's not my family. Family are the people who stick by you, fight for you, blindly invade a sinister villain's secret stronghold for you.
Twice in 1 week.
Family would do anything to keep you safe and sacrifice everything to love you, no matter who or what you are. Like Scrooge, like my granny, or like you two. Please, help us save our family.
Here's a question. If Webby is Scrooge's daughter, does that make the nephews her nephews? How does that work? Or are they cousins?
Cousins.
I guess it'd be cousins. Okay. Just trying to figure that out. They have a really complex family structure.
But don't we all?
Because then it kind of goes into, like, our May and June. Like, are they Webby's daughters then? If they're cloned from what? It gets complicated. But clones are complicated.
But here's the main point there. Does it matter?
No.
At the end of the day, does it matter? You, at the end of the day, kind of choose your family unit. Yes, you are born into a blood family. But real family is built through relationships over time, built through connectivity, built through experience, adventure. Family is an adventure that you never stop going on.
And then to kind of expand upon what I was saying is, I feel like if you try to, like, label like that, it makes things complicated. In, like, I remember my one relationship, it was like I tried to label what I was, and it kind of destroyed our relationship, because then it's like, expectations start, like, popping up, and then it's like, especially if you, it kind of goes back to Della Duck with, like, oh, I'm a mom now. What does that mean? Like, how does that, like, do I have to change how I act? Do I have to change who I am? Like,
adaptation.
Mm-hmm.
You find yourself. You never stop growing. You learn every day. Labels are very interesting. We as people like to label things, like to have a handle on it, because it makes it easier to process and understand the world. But there are limits to how much a label can really hold up. And a label is only as good as what that label means to you. And that can be different from person to person. Whether it's sister, aunt, cousin, mother, just family member in general, each has its own level of understanding based on who you are. What a brother means to me could be different than what a brother means to you. I might be closer to blood family and relate it with that. But where other people, I'll tell you, I took a trip to North Carolina years and years ago, and down there, everybody would say, like, I'd go to the grocery store, not the grocery store, I'd go to the gas station and be like, hey, I need $20 on pump 10. Sure thing, brother. Words only have the power over you that you give them. And that's the thing about family and those labels and that structure. Family structure is really dictated by you. You define your family world within your own brain, within your own experience. And that's amazing. Yes, there is a traditional family concept, and if that works for you, that's fantastic. But think about it, even if you fall within that traditional family, I bet you that there is an expanded family, people that you would call a part of your inner circle, a part of your family. And whether you decide to call it family or call it something else, you still have that passion, that feeling inside that tells you what that person means, who they are, how you are to each other, what you mean to one another, and what you would do for that person, and knowing what they would do for you. And that's amazing. It's incredible. And it all comes to this huge, beautiful climax in this series here.
The only way to break the papyrus's spell is to find a contradiction on the papyrus.
This contract is airtight. Scrooge only gets his family if he gives up adventure.
Ding! Bradford, your contract is flawed!
What? Impossible. I worked on it for 30 years. Went over it with the finest tooth combs.
According to this, Scrooge can be with his family as long as he does an adventure.
But family is the greatest adventure of all!
That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. There's no way that... No! No! I will not lose to Scrooge!
You didn't lose to me. You lost to my family. All of them.
It still gives me shivers to watch that scene and watch everybody come up. It's very like Avengers Assemble or the end battle in Friendship is Magic. When that power of people coming together as a unit, as a big family, and you don't have to be related by blood. You don't have to be, like your experiences will vary. But what you mean to each other is, at the end of the day, what says it all. The ability to come together as a unit. And we see this happen. You form little families all the time. Look at sports. Look at the world of sports and sports fandoms. You form this little world and you all unite under a common goal of rooting for your team and struggling with the ups and downs of when they win and when they lose and when they go for the championship. So much there. You're forming your family units all the time. Family really is the greatest adventure of all.
I mean, you can say it's sports, with fandom, with even religion.
Mm-hmm. So much gets into us. And we may call it something different. but I would call it family. And I'm happy to have a beautiful extended family at this point in my life. And if you feel like you don't, the world is out there waiting for you. It doesn't have to be who is within vision. That's the beautiful thing about the internet. You can reach out and meet people you never thought you could before. It's the beauty of the convention scene once we get out of the pandemic and we can start doing in-person conventions again. I have met people over the last 6 years that have affected my life so much that I call family. I've met the woman I'm going to marry. And I don't think I ever truly thought I would be where I am today. But I am. And it's through these connections, through this connectivity, through this family structure and unit, or lack thereof of structure, because I'm dictating what family means to me. And what family means within is just powerful and beautiful. And I hope that you all out there watching can find that within yourselves as well.
And if you're in the need for family, our family is always growing.
It's true. So we're about out of time here. I want to thank everyone for watching today. If you watched the whole panel and you've never seen DuckTales, please check it out. It is a beautiful show. We are getting some This Duckburg Life current podcast episodes that are just entertaining as heck to listen to. I really want to see this franchise continue in some format. And we're certainly going to do more panels on DuckTales in the future, so let us know how you felt about this one, and if you have ideas of things you'd love to see moving forward. As always, we represent keeping friendship magic, and if you like what we do, you can always listen to our podcast at anywhere you listen to podcasts, really, or at our hub at kfm.buzzsprout.com. And if you really love us, you can check out our Patreon, patreon.com/KFM. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month. And that helps us put on crazy little things like this. Other than that, I want to thank you for joining me, Miss Nova Rose, for another wonderful panel.
As always.
And where can people find you directly?
They can find me at Twitter. I am at Nova Roselia.
And you can find me on Twitter at KeepFriendMagic. And I want to remind you all to continue to keep friendship magic out there and keep family magic, I guess, too. So with that being said, thank you all again for watching, and have a fantastic day. Thank you so much. A huge thank you to our patrons, SamuDash, Jason Kuzmak, Statman Dan, NeverendingNerd, Riftwing Designs, and Frenchie McHugh. Without your support, this project wouldn't be possible.